United we're as strong.
This is Steve Zeltzer with Workweek. And this past week, Governor Gavin Newsom has appointed Laphonza Butler to replace Senator Feinstein, who passed away. Many people ask who Laphonza Butler is and what is her role in the labor movement in SEIU 2015. We talked recently with Brad Wiedmaier, who was an activist and at one time was on the elected board of SEIU Local 2015.
Thanks, Steve, for having me. I worked in the union with her as the head of the union, the CEO, basically. Is the
way. It's 2015. What kind of union?
Yeah, that's actually when she took over. It was known as the long-term care LTCW, long-term care workers, and then later in 2015, my union transferred us over to the Long-Term Care Workers Union, and it became 2015 a united all SEIU home care units and nursing home units, long-term care, were put under Laphonza's umbrella, Los Angeles-based local.
And it has a large number of workers. It's kind of like a big corporate merger. How many workers are in that?
Yeah, I mean, the use of the word local is pretty ridiculous because it's statewide. It's not quite 40 counties out of the 58 that are in another international, but there's 325,000 home care workers that are represented by this union since 2015.
And there has been a whole history of corruption in the union, malfeasance by the union leadership. The president of the SEIU, Andy Stern, put in people, they appoint people. They're not a democratic process in this union. I mean, there's corruption and people have had to resign. They've been charged with crimes in 2015. Was this part of the crisis in that local?
Yes, I mean, Laphonza Butler was moved in from, I mean, she was coming from building properties union, which was the janitors and security guards and other workers, and so this was a new line of work for her in healthcare. But the former president of the United Long-Term Care Workers Union, there was a scandal. The LA Times broke the scandal. He was stealing millions of dollars from home care workers, and even SEIU finally was forced to address him, and he was banned from working for life with SEIU. That was how deep the scandal was, and it was proven. But a lot of the people that he brought in that are still there, including the godfather of his kids, and he was the godfather of one of the current vice presidents in the union. So it wasn't a complete clearance of house. And there were people on the executive board that were tied with him that remained in the leadership of that union. And at that point, I was blocked from being on the executive committee, but continued to be very active in the union local.
And you were threatened by her, that she threatened to call the police. Why don't you talk about that incident that the head of this union, Butler, would actually threaten a member to call the police on you? Why did she do that?
In our Constitution, in SEIU, there's a statement that any member has a right to attend any meeting. And so on an executive board that I had been forced off, I wanted to find out, how things were going. And I went to a meeting and I quietly attended. It was a hotel meeting in Sacramento, and I was, I went in to just take notes, not to interrupt, not to talk, anything like that. But after the session started, Laphonza Butler said to me, "Weidmaier, are you going to leave or do I have to call the authorities?" And I took the time to explain that was disrespecting not only the membership of the union, but our Constitution and the rights that are guaranteed in the Constitution to the members, and that I apologized to the members. I didn't intend to disrupt their meeting. I was just exercising my rights as a member. And so I left, and a number of the people that I thought were friends that had been taken up into the new circle when they came out, I thought they were going to offer sort of condolences or apologies, but instead they were like attacking me. And before I left the room, she designated some people to really pile a lot of verbiage on me. So it was like a really unnecessary and rule violating exercise by her.
And if the Constitution says that rank and file members are able to go to these meetings, why did she do that?
Why did she do that? Well, they rewrote the Weidmaier rule, where now they put a proviso that you had to apply in advance and get approval to go, which still violates the Constitution, but it hadn't been challenged, and I wasn't able to challenge it. But why would she do that? She had said that she reserved the right to have the leadership have a relationship with each other without outside people coming in, which sounds pretty, something kind of calling for a cliquish development in the local, and and before then, there were whispering campaigns that I was anti-union. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I'm a union person for 50 years. I've been on picket lines fighting for the American labor movement. And they actually, said that I was with, I don't know if I should name one of the anti-union organizations that's been harassing home care and SEIU, and they would whisper to people that I'm really with that. And people who didn't know me, it opened a question, and it was really inappropriate kind of the way to run a union. And one thing that she did do was have a weekly open mic, basically phone call for people to bring stuff. We brought lots of issues to that, but that has been shut down subsequently to her being the president.
Are you surprised she left that job and then got a job as a consulting company representing Uber, a union-busting anti-labor firm? I mean, does that surprise you at all?
Well, this the company was Smith, Clegg, Rodriguez, and then Butler. She was added to it as a political consultant, and they represented Jerry Brown for governor, Newsom, Libby Schaaf. So then these kind of capitalist politicians who are looking out, I mean, we've just seen, Newsom do a whole slate of anti-worker vetoes, so you get, a feeling of where they're coming from, and she's advising him on that. And for that political consulting company, she became the spokesperson for Uber in their really negative initiative that attacked the right of the hail drivers, the rideshare drivers, to be considered workers and to have the rights that all workers supposedly are given under law in this state.
So she sold out to the Uber, the billionaires, the tech billionaires. Are you surprised? I mean, it seems like Newsom also in vetoing AB 316, saying that requiring that you should have a driver if you have a truck over 10,000 pounds. Uber, these companies, Google, they want to use AI to get rid of workers. It seems like she's part of the whole crew.
Right. Well, she also then subsequently, after she left that consultant job, she was the public spokesman for Airbnb, which is one of the causes of the housing crisis. And she was justifying them and their activities of draining away permanent housing for people and making it temporary, compete with the hotels and the hotel workers. So, in many ways, she's been anti-worker, but it fits with the entire Democratic Party, superstructure, including Feinstein, who, may she rest in peace. I don't have any, personal vendetta against her or anything, or her memory, but, she did side with the corporate elite. And
she tried to break a strike in the city and county of San Francisco of city workers, and she was telling workers to break the picket lines and go to work. This is Senator Feinstein, who's now being celebrated as a great Democrat.
Well, yes, and with the assassination of Mayor Moscone and Harvey Milk, she gutted the total administration, and she remade it in a much more business-friendly and a real estate interest administration, in planning especially, which I followed as well. There's the beginning of the real crisis, as the old San Francisco as we knew it began under her regime.
Okay, and your advice to Governor Newsom about his appointees?
His appointments? These things are going to come back. The vetoing of AB Assembly Bill 316, that was over the vote of literally 90% of the legislature, because they see that the California people are really uncomfortable with these tech companies, with the job losses, and with the lack of safety. That's being sabotaged by the Democrats because they are putting forward the first companies first onto the streets, collecting fares from the pre-assigned and apt people. So, you may have some problems with the rise of the Workers' Party, because this is exactly why we need one. This is a demonstration in California. The appointment of Laphonza Butler, who's not really a labor leader, she's a labor bureaucrat.